Hey everybody. Alright, so time for the next video in our series of making a 2D game in Unreal Engine. So, um, so first things first, the first thing we're going to do is we got to do a couple of fixes and add-ons to the main character. Just in preparation for later on when we start calculating damage and doing attacks with hitboxes and things of that nature. Then once we're done with that, then we're going to get into creating our first enemy with some AI. Very, very loosely used AI, but it'll still be an enemy that can chase the player, essentially. All right, so let's jump right into it. So here we are back in the project. So last we had a working full player that walks around, looks in all the right directions. So now let's give this player some collision for combat later down the road. So we're going to go into our hero folder here. We're going to open up the hero blueprint. Okay, and then we're just going to go to the viewport here. So here we are with our player. And you can see we've already got a capsule collider, but that collider is already being used for something. So right now we're going to add another collider. So we're going to click add, and we're going to add a box collider. All right, and we're going to call this hitbox. So we will use this later on in the sword collision. But with the hitbox selected, what we want to do is search for hidden. Right here where it says hidden in game, this little checkbox hides this collider while it's in game. We're going to uncheck that because we want to be able to see that right now. Okay, and then we're also going to grab this collider and just move it down to around the player's feet for now, just like that. Okay, so I'm just going to compile and save. And now let's go play just to see the result of what's happening here. So if we take a look in our game, we can see the collider box, as we should, because we disabled the hidden in game, right? But if we move around, we'll see that the collider just stays in below the player at all times, and that's because our player isn't actually turning in the game, right? The player, the character that we have, when we choose a new direction, it's just a new sprite, but the player character doesn't actually turn anywhere. So we have to change that. We have to make it so that the player character also turns, and then that new box collider will turn with it. Okay, so first thing we're going to have to do is, it's just a couple of settings, but they're important, so try and keep up. And if you need to, you can slow the video down or pause. Okay, so we're going to first need to enable the character rotation, and we're going to do this in the base character. So we're going to go back to our character folder, and we're going to see here where it says BP Adventure Character Base that we created. We're going to go inside of here, and we're going to open the full blueprint editor. And then inside of the blueprint editor, we're going to search for the orient rotation. Okay, so orient rotation to movement, we're going to check that to on. So that's going to allow our character to rotate with our movement. Okay, but now we need to disable the controller rotation, because these things will contradict or conflict with each other. So we're going to search for use controller. So right here where it says use controller rotation yaw under the pawn, we're going to disable that. Okay, and I'm going to compile and save before I forget. Okay, so now we've got those settings dealt with, but what happens if we hit play now? So everything looks fine, but when I start to move and rotate, now the camera is rotating, right? And we don't really want the camera to be rotating because it's very jarring, right? So we're going to have to go back to our BP hero, because this is where our camera is made, and we're going to grab our spring arm. So our spring arm is the thing that controls where the camera goes, right? And inside of the spring arm's transform, you may have noticed here that in our transform information, location, rotation, and scale, that these things have little drop downs. So right now, the rotation of our camera spring arm is relative to our player. But we can take this drop down and switch it to though relative to the world. Okay? Oops. So compile and save. Now if we go play, the camera won't rotate anymore. Okay? Because the camera is maintaining its rotation to the rotation of the world. But now the player is rotating really, really weird. And he's not acting at all like we would expect him to act. So we're going to have to fix that now. So we're going to have to change the sprite rotation to also move relative to our control. That's going to be done in the base as well. So in the base, we're going to grab our sprite. And just like with the camera where we got the rotation relative, we're going to click it to world. And if we go test it now, we can see that our character is now working as it was originally built to do. But we'll notice that the collider is just not even facing in the right direction at all. So now we're going to have to fix our hitbox placement. So back to our blueprint for the hero. We are going to first select our hitbox. And let's reset its transform. So we had moved it down to its feet. So let's reset it for now. And we're going to move it just forward on the X by 30. Like so. Okay, so this will line it up a little bit better into the position that we need it to. Then we need to update the paper ZD logic. So we got to go into our animation now. So we're going to go to hero and we're going to open the animation blueprint for the hero. Okay, and then this is going to be probably a bigger change. So last time we had set this up. I'm embarrassed by the organization level of my blueprint here because I didn't clean this up at all. All right, okay. So here's our blueprint as it used to be, and we're going to have to change the way this works here. Okay. So we're going to remove the old directionality setup. Okay, so we can select this. We'll just delete it. And now from the owning hero, we are going to get the actor forward vector. Okay, so after we get the actor forward vector, we're going to split the struct pin. And we're going to make a vector 2D. We won't need this break anymore. And we're going to plug in our X to the X. We don't need this multiply anymore. We'll just make a new one. Multiply, same thing, -1. And we'll plug this into here. Let's clean this up a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to recombine this set directionality, so recombine the struct, and we can plug that value straight into there. And that's what it looks like now. Okay, so we're going to compile and save. And now if we hit play, our collider cube is rotating in the same direction as our player's movement. There's still an issue, however. It's kind of floaty, right? The rotation speed is really slow. Now this could be perhaps like a feature to a game in the future, but that's not something that we're shooting for right now. So we're going to have to increase the rotation of that collider. So we're going to go back to our base. We're going to select the top level component or the character movement. and we're going to search for rotation rate. So we got the rotation rate right here. So the rotation rate here, we'll notice, is right now set to 360. So let's change this to like 10,000. And we'll compile and save. And now when we move, our little sword collider is rotating with our character quite nicely, if I may say so. Okay. So the last thing to do is we'll notice that our spawn direction is no longer working anymore. But now that's simple enough. We can just go here and adjust the rotation, and the character will now face in the right direction. That's simple. Okay. So now that we've got our character all fixed up and ready to go, let's start working on our AI. So by now, I would hope that you already have your enemy prepared and ready to go. I have one ready to go. So the animation blueprints are all set up for the enemy. And now we're just going to add some AI control to that enemy. All right, so let's start making an AI enemy. So first things first, we need to set up the enemy. So let's go into our content drawer, and we're going to go into blueprints, character, where we've already started to kind of set up the turkey. Right? So let's go back to one folder, and we're going to create another parent object for all of our enemies, and our parent object for our enemies is also just going to be a child of our adventure character base. So we're going to right click, create a child blueprint, and we'll call this BP enemy base. And then of course, as I said, our turkey will just be a child of that. So we'll call that BP underscore turkey. Okay. And we'll put this turkey blueprint in our turkey folder. And we can go open up our turkey blueprint. Now, you'll notice something right off the bat. There's a little glitch that happened. Our sprite is standing upright. So if you remember, when we set up the base adventure, we had that sprite laying down. But for some reason, the rotation is removed. It's just a known glitch. So we're just going to put this back to 270 degrees on the X. Make sure it's on the base. Okay, and then we'll save. And then we should go to the hero as well. Blueprint. And just check that our spring arm is still at 270 and 270 on the Y and Z. And if all that's cool, then we're all set. Hey, Editor Justin here. So just to let you guys know that right here at this part, you're going to watch me change the hero sprite to the turkey sprite, but I do it in the adventurer base blueprint parent when you were meant to do this in the blueprint for the turkey. Okay, so in the turkey blueprint, change the sprite. Do not change the sprite in the base blueprint. All right, so the first thing we'll do here is we'll change the sprite because we're not going to use the tough guy. We got a turkey that we're going to use. So we'll search for turkey, and I'm just going to do the turkey walk south. Okay, and I'll compile and save. Sometimes it may not change right away, and that's fine. Just go in here and change it a second time. Okay, and then we can come in here if we like and go into our turkey folder and grab our turkey blueprint, and we can bring the turkey in so we can hit play and see how big he is. It's quite the scary turkey. Okay, so now with the sprite added, we need to create the animation blueprint. Okay, so this is all refresher. So I might go a little quick, but if you need to follow along or whatnot, you can slow down the video or what have you. So we're going to come right in here and we're going to right click and go to in our Turkey folder, and we're going to go Paper ZD and do the Paper ZD animation blueprint, and we're going to select Turkey, and we're going to call this the animation BP underscore Turkey, and we're going to open this up. Okay, and then inside of the animation graph, so you guys are familiar with this, you remember when we originally set up our hero, I showed how using the animation bool, a true or false, whether the character is idle or moving. That didn't really work for our hero, but because our turkey has an idle and a walk, this will actually work really well here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to set our directionality. Okay, and then from here we're going to set animation by bool. Okay, and then we need to get the owning actor, get velocity, we're going to have to get vector length, sometimes writing the get isn't accurate there for me to say that like that. Okay, so if you remember, this is just a reference to this actor. We're getting this actor's velocity and their length, and then we're just going to check if that length is greater than 0. Now we've got our condition for true or false, right? So for true, when the length is greater than 0 and it's true, we're going to play the walk animation. And when it's false, we're going to play the idle. Okay, now we just need to set up the input. So we also need a get owning actor. And the owning actor, we're going to get forward vector. And we're going to split this pin. So we get the XYZ, and then we're going to make vector 2D. And we're going to plug our X into X. And if you recall, the Y needs to be multiplied by -1. And we plug that into there. All right, and there's our animation blueprint, all set, ready to go, just like that. So now the animation blueprint's done, we need to apply that animation blueprint to our BP turkey. I accidentally added the turkey to our base. I'm just going to undo that and put the tough guy back. And in our BP turkey, there we go. I didn't realize I made a mistake there. So turkey, just making sure that the turkey walks south. All right, so just to double check everything, we're gonna hit play. Okay, it's all good. Great. So here we are in our BP turkey. I'm just gonna close this base so we don't mess with it anymore until we need to. But now we need to apply the animation blueprint that we just made to the turkey. So obviously that's going to go on the animation component, and we're going to change the class. So the animation instance class will be our animation blueprint for turkey. Great. So now we get to finally start some new stuff. So we're going to have to make some AI for the turkey. This isn't going to be terribly complex. We're just going to first find out the location of where our player is. Then we're going to find out the location of where our turkey is, or get our turkey's location. and then we're going to plug all of that vector information into a move component, causing our enemy to move towards our player. So just to show you, if we go back to our hero in his controller, if you notice we got this add movement input, right? So we've got the values here based on the keyboard presses, but we can use this same idea to have our enemy get the player's location and then move to that player's location. So just by plugging in that information in here. So let's do that. So the first thing we're going to need is an AI controller. So we probably could, if we really wanted to, do that like right in here with the turkey, but if we make an AI controller, we can reuse it. So let's go back to the content folder, make a new folder called AI, and inside of the AI folder, we're going to right click Blueprint class. Inside of all classes, we're going to search for AI controller. And we're going to call this AI and C underscore enemy. And let's open that up. Okay, so in the event graph, we're going to have our event begin play and event tick. We'll need those. Don't move those. Okay. So the first thing that we can do here, let's just do a quick test. So off of the event begin play, let's do a print string. And let's type AI working, compile. And then let's go to our enemy base, because our enemies are all going to use the same AI. So we'll go to our character and the enemy base. And with our top level actor selected, we're going to search for AI. And then down here under pawn, we've got two things we need to change. So we got the AI auto possess AI and the AI controller itself. So let's switch the AI controller to our AIC enemy that we just made. And in the auto possess AI, we're going to switch this to place world or spawned. Okay, and then we'll compile and save. And now if we go play test, we should see AI working. Okay. So that's just a fun little way to make sure that all of that is functioning properly. Okay, but now let's actually get it to do some work here. So we can get rid of that. Okay. First, we're going to need to get the player pawn. Okay, so this gives us access to our player. Okay, and off of here, we're going to promote that to a variable, and we're going to call this target player. Okay, this will allow us to reuse that over and over again if we need to. Okay, and then we can plug this right into the event begin play, because we want this get to take place right away. All right, we'll compile and save this for now. And now we're going to search for an event on possess. All right, and this will be our AI's possession. And we're going to pull off of this and promote this to a variable. Okay. Now, in the pawn possess, however, the pawn is just the pawn. It's literally nothing. We want to gain access to the enemy's like actual blueprint, right? So like where the variables are and things of that sort. So over here in the variables, we promoted this to a variable, right? So I'm going to disconnect this because otherwise it's going to make some errors. And don't worry, it's fine. Okay, and over here in the pawn, instead of making the pawn the reference, we want to look for BP enemy base. and it's going to kick up a warning, and we're going to change the variable type anyways. Okay. And now off of here, we're going to cast to the BP enemy base. No, not that one. Sorry. Grab off of this one. My bad. Cast to BP enemy base. And then plug that in there like that. Okay. So now we got we got a pawn possess variable that we can use for the enemy and our player variable that we can use for reference. We're going to go to our enemy base. We're going to go in the event graph. And we're going to add a custom event. Okay. And we're going to call this custom event walk towards. Okay. And then this is just going to be where we add the movement component. And we're just going to plug that here. And then we want to gain access through this custom event. Think of it like a portal to the world direction. Hold on, I put the wrong node. That was strangely difficult. Add movement input. There we go. Add movement input. Okay, so we want to give access from this custom event to the world direction as well. So we can just grab this world direction. If we drop it right on the custom event node, it will also plug through there. Just like that. And that's it. Right, so now we've got access to the add movement of the base enemies. So all the enemies will move. Okay, so we go back to our enemy blueprint. And now we can call off of our possessed pawn the movement, which the event we called walk towards. So we'll type walk towards, and we can get this event. Just going to put this down here. Okay, so we've got the event, and you can see the event came with the world direction that we can use. So now, off of here, we're going to get forward vector. Okay, and let's bring in our target player, because as I mentioned before, we need to get the location of the target player, and we're going to bring in our enemy because we'll need the location of our enemy, so the possessed pawn. Okay, and we're going to need to know where they both are, right? So we can get the actor location, and we can just Control D to duplicate that, and we're going to need another one for that actor. Okay, so we have the ability to control our world direction. We know where both of our enemy and our hero are. So we're going to connect all of this together with a find, look, at rotation. And the start will be the pawn. The target is the hero. And then the direction is the return value. Okay, so we have this now. So our enemy can find our player and move towards his location and actually has the control to do that. But what triggers all of this? Well, we're just going to use an event tick. So it's sometimes often not like a good idea to use event tick. It's very system intensive, but for our purposes, it'll be okay. But we don't just want it to constantly be checking. We only want to check when it's necessary. So we'll grab another target player. And what we're going to do is we're going to check if it is valid. There'll be a couple of valid options, like is valid here, is valid branch. Scroll to the bottom. We want the one with the question mark, the big question mark. We'll plug our tick into there. The target is the player. So is the player, is it valid? If it is valid, then launch our control. Okay. So if all of this is set up properly, if we compile, save, and play, our turkey should now be ravenous and just right up on us and rotating as they should and all that fun jazz. Now, obviously, we don't want the turkey to outrun us, right? So our player's movement speed, we changed to 300 yesterday. So our turkey, let's go to our turkey's blueprint. We'll go to turkey and we'll open up our turkey's blueprint. So right onto the turkey blueprint, I'm going to open this. Because every enemy, we're probably going to have them do some like different movement speeds, right? So let's just look for max walk. And it's at 600 right now. So let's make it like 120. So if our hero moves at 300, let's make our turkey move 120 for now. Right? And if we hit play, now the turkey can move, but our player can outrun them. And then later we'll add the ability to swipe at it and attack and do some knockback, and it'll all be fun. All right. And that's it in a nutshell anyways. So you can get that enemy done, and we will add other enemies. So keep this one in the back of your mind so you can recall and repeat it later on. All right. Thanks a lot for watching.